Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 20 of Rushcast. This is actually our third attempt now. I had to put my teeth back in because I was stumbling my words, and then some gremlins just interjected with our last recording. So here we go, third attempt. Welcome to episode 20 of Rushcast, the show where we are going through the entire back catalogue of Canada's finest trio, Rush. One album per episode each time. I've said this 3 times now, so I'm still stumbling. Including solo albums and side projects on the way. And this week we are doing Feedback, the covers album. So we'll get into that in a minute. I've got a nice little introduction actually I can put on this one, but what we've been doing as well, obviously we've been discussing any news that's been going on with Rush at the moment, because Geddy Lee's just wrapped up his spoken word tour off the back of his autobiography. He's been doing shows where he's telling stories, reading excerpts from the book, Q&A, all that good stuff. He's had a different co-host every night, but on the last couple of shows Alex Lifeson joined him. And off the back of that, and then off the back of a podcast that Alex Lifeson's recently done, is kind of put to bed any notions of a Rush reunion, reactivation, tribute, however you want to put it. And Alex was saying he's doing those shows with Geddy kind of gave him the closure that he was looking for. They both expressed that they were a little, they had to come to terms with the way Rush ended, because it was kind of taken out of their hands a little bit. And Alex and Geddy both at different times expressed that final tour was fine. They just wished it could have gone on a little longer. Alex even said, 20 more shows would have been fine. But yeah, Alex basically was expressing the fact of going on doing a tour has become a bit of a daunting task rather than an exciting one. How he was touring for so long and then has stopped. The idea of starting again is quite daunting. Not only that, adding to it, he suffers a bit of arthritis now, and he doesn't think he could play to the standard that he would have played 10 years ago. And basically he's just gone, look, we're done. It is what it is. And I thought maybe we could discuss that, because we have had a bit of discussion of the notion that they might. But I've got to say, Paul, I'm quite relieved about that. What do you think?
Yeah.
I've not even introduced you. I'm my co-host, Paul.
Hello,
my partner in crime,
like a piece of furniture
extraordinaire in audio scope. And where we've had a couple of attempts of just sort of...
Yeah,
sorry about that.
No, it's not.
How are you, Paul? What do you think? Yeah,
I'm okay, Joe. And obviously we were talking off air anyway, and it's been a long week. So, but we're here. Yes, with regards to the news, I've got to be honest, I'm the same as you. I'm quite relieved that they're not going to redo it. I just don't. I don't know. It's no detriment to any drummer out there or was in the frame for it. I just think it's run its course, and I think it's almost, to me, it reminds me so much of what was going on when Led Zeppelin lost John Bonham. There was huge conjecture that time, will Led Zeppelin reform? Will they get back together? Will they get another drummer? And to me, this is exactly the same. So much speculation, but I think Alex's comments have pretty much put it to bed with regards to what he's doing. Geddy, I don't know. I'm not sure what Geddy will do. He might embark and do another solo album. We never know. I mean, we did speak about that before. He might do that.
There very well may be a collaboration between the two of them as well, but it just be a studio project.
It could just be, Rush will be a studio project. And if they can do that, then they've got complete freedom. They can have a different drummer on any track.
And Alex says he went, pretty much anyone that comes into town, I'm getting invited to come up and do a song with him. He's done Primus. He recently did an appearance with Toll. Yeah. He's like, I'm happy with that. Obviously, he's got the Envy of None project as well, but it doesn't look like that's going to be a touring project. But
No.
there's it looks like we've got a second album coming from them.
Yeah.
So
I think I think if anybody's going to tour in some sort of musical capacity, it will be Geddy. So he might not. Again, we'll have to see what Geddy feels like with regards to this, but he might end up having the same opinion as Alex and thinking, do you know what, I don't know if I really want to fly all over the world again, and a blur of hotels, public conferences and sound checks and doing the gigs, and it's just no, to me, I think it's I sort of greet the news with I'm quite happy about it, actually. I think so.
Yeah, it's not right as well. Look, you're you don't get to choose the ending of a band, be it Nirvana or the Jimi Hendrix Experience or whoever is split up, or however a band comes to an end. It don't get no better than the way Rush ended.
No.
Now, you could go, I just wanted 20 more shows. Okay, well, the brakes had to be pulled somewhere, and Neil felt that was the time to stop. They still had a last tour. The set list was designed.
Yeah, and some bands never get that. Yeah. Some bands don't get that chance.
A handshake, and they did remain friends.
Yeah.
You've got 20 albums, I think, 19 albums. Help me out, Paul.
I think it's 20. I think it's 20 albums.
You've got,
it's 20
you've got 20 albums,
including this one, which is obviously a cover,
which we're going to get to in a sec.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a fantastic catalogue, a body of work that's as close to perfect as you can get. There's some peaks and troughs and all the rest of it, which is inevitable with a body of work that spans that thing. But again, with the way it ended, they didn't end with a stinker. That everything's closed. Nothing's actually open-ended with Rush. So,
yeah,
be careful what you wish for, I think, is the thing going ahead, because it's not going to be what you think it's going to be.
No,
quite frankly,
I think the fact that both Alex and Geddy had said that really it was something beyond their control in the end, and I think.
But isn't everything?
Yeah, I was going to say life is like that.
The ending has only ever been, that's as close to ending on your terms as a band can get.
Yeah, and it's not like they're, as you say, it's quite a body of work. So, I mean, we're going to be going through the thing like the DVDs, live albums. There's a huge catalogue here of Rush. It's a massive body of work, and it stands up on its own, and not many bands get to do that amount.
And I would say and I would just add to that. I'll pick the right book up in a minute. I'd add to that is I think as well, Rush from 1975 to 1985. That's going to be studied 100 years from now. That is a golden run, a winning streak of any band. I think that's going to transcend genres. It's going to. I think Rush 1975, 1985. It's up there with the Beatles and the Stones, and Zeppelin, and whatever classic of body of work that you want to put in rock history. That the overall catalogue, but if you wanted to focus on a period, I think is.
It can't be ignored, put it that way, because it's pretty diverse, and there's just so much of it, and it's a
look at Nirvana. You got 3 albums and a tragic ending. With what you get with Rush, it really isn't that bad in the big scheme of things, So just, I think
it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse. And they had to, for Neil at the end there on that last tour, which we'll obviously end up talking about anyway, the R40 tour, he was physically suffering quite a bit in that tour. There were reports like every night he had to have ice packs on his shoulders and stuff like that. He was, I think, to do 31 shows on that R40 tour, because it was North America again.
30 odd, yeah. 30
Yeah, I think it was 31. But I think for him to even get through that was, there was a determination there. But I think it was quite an attritional little tour for him. He was struggling a bit. So,
indeed.
I dare say possibly 20 more shows would have just been too much for him, and I think he would have really, really struggled. And he said he wanted to play of a certain standard and quality. He didn't want that to diminish.
Yeah, it was 99 or not at all.
It was basically
100% or not at all. 99 wasn't good enough.
And I've always remembered Bill Bruford, and I mean he is still with us, and he effectively retired at the age of 60. And he said it's knowing when to bow out.
Yeah.
It's knowing when to stop. And I think with Bill Bruford, he said, he said I can still play. He said, and my joints and everything are all still pretty good. He said, but if I'd carried on touring, he said it probably would have been a different story.
Just jog my memory, Paul. Bill Bruford, is that King Crimson or
yes? King Crimson, and yes, he was the original Yes drummer.
Right. Who was the Electric Light Orchestra guy that jumped?
Well, that's Bev Bevan.
Beth Bevan, yeah. Because he joined Sabbath for a little while as well.
He did an album. He did a tour. Did he do it? Was it a tour with Sabbath? Because he didn't do the album.
He didn't do. There's a couple of live recordings.
I think it was at the Reading Festival. I think that's the one I heard. It's Bill Bruford, and obviously he had his own band, Bruford, and Earthworks is another one, but he's done various collaborations as well over the years. But he's really renowned for Yes, and then latterly King Crimson.
Right, so let's get into this album. This feedback came out off the back of the band's 30th anniversary tour, which they were going to do a R30 tour.
Yeah.
And to celebrate that, they thought they would just put out a album of covers of songs that they covered in the early days of the band. And I've got a good little so this is from the Martin Popoff book that I've been referencing.
Yep, go for
throughout the show. Because of a little asterisk of inconvenience called feedback, declaring Rush a band of 20 studio records, necessarily requires an additional clumsy wording involving add-ons like 19 of original material, 19 plus one EP, plus it's a long EP, and even a short album, bolstered by it's got 8 songs and it's 28 minutes long. So in the land of Van Halen, it's an album. I can also attest to that. Slayer's Rain in Blood album is 29 minutes.
Yeah.
And the entire album fit perfectly on both sides of the cassette. That was a little, you had to get the cassette. No other album had that. You had the full album on both sides. But it is an album, 29 minutes. Well, we can be thankful that we don't have to talk about the breakup, then reunion album. Exactly, that's what we're saying as well. Do you really want the reunion album? One record with a different singer, or half live, half studio record. In any event, the reality is Rush made a long covers EP, and we have to deal with it. And so enough about the affront to tidiness, a tactic expectation that Rush in themselves have bred in their fan base, but now shattered. Into the music, and guess what? It's just kind of cool that Rush, after straight-laced decades of no covers in a studio or live, suddenly bashed out eight oldies beloved by the guys as teens, whacked it onto a digipack, and then bashed it out on stage, much to the surprise of the trained faithful.
Yes. I'm just gonna.
But it's that such and such albums plus that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, again, what do we get? We've had normally with the back catalogue you get a lineup change or a new singer or stopgap releases, as they say. I do think
it was a surprise, but as you said, it was to mark their 30th birthday, their 30th anniversary, however you want to put it. And they said they felt it was a good idea to look back retrospectively at the songs and the artists that inspired them all them years ago. And I don't know if you've tried reading the bit on the inside cover of this CD.
I've only got this.
Well, that's all I've got, but I've got a magnifying glass to try and read the few paragraphs that Piet has written. And I'm not going to try and read all of it. But basically, with listening to this album, you're transported straight back to 1966, 1967, and the songs that they were playing, that they were learning as young musicians. And I think it's an interesting collection of covers. As I say, it is a very short album, but it's an album nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a short album. These episodes of Rushcast tend to be quite long, but I don't think this is going to be a long show. But again, we've got to cover it, and there's still lots to discuss.
Yeah, there is.
Before we get into the songs, you can tell it's a really good listen. You can tell the band are just having fun. They probably whacked it out. They probably didn't take very long recording it as well. It sounds live. Production wise, I think this is pretty close to perfection as far as Rush goes. I think a couple of albums would have benefited from sounding like this album.
It's very. It was
produced by David Leonard. Did he do much with the band off the top of?
Well, he was involved with Vapor Trails.
Oh, okay, right. So
I think he was involved with Vapor Trails. I think so. So I try to cover everything on this.
That's fine. I just want to just to bring Slayer did a covers album of just all punk songs called Undisputed Attitude. It was just 13 covers, and some of them were 2 songs back to back by the same band.
Yeah.
And then one new song at the end. And the Tom Araya, the singer, said, that's my favourite album. He said it was certainly the most fun. He said because the band just he said there was nothing to worry about. We just bashed the songs out.
Exactly.
And Tom, he said, I turned up for one day. He went, I just screamed into the microphone for the whole day, and
that was it. Job done.
Yeah, that's the best recording I've ever done.
But that's what comes across with this. It's just very, it's very authentic sounding, as you said. It's very live sounding. Yes, David Leonard mixed the original version of Vapor Trails.
Right. Okay.
And then I think he had a lot to do then with cleaning it up as well. I think. I think he did. Yes, it didn't take long to record this album. I think it was, from what I can glean and my eyes can focus on, it was March and April 2004, and then into May. So it was over a course of 3 months sporadically by the looks of it. It's a great it's a great album, a complete change of pace, really. And you've got 3 guys who are just playing their instruments. There's no writing, there's no lyrics involved. Neil is just playing the drums on this, and no worrying about arrangements and stuff like that. They just went in there and did it. I'm just looking at, this was released the end of June 2004. I'll just read what I've got here. It says here, the antithesis of the demanding and protracted Vapor Trails sessions 2 years prior, feedback was a chance for Rush to re-engage with their early influences and enjoy the process of creating an album in the most organic and basic way. An album of 8 cover versions the most recent of which, The Seeker, was originally released in 1970. The oldest, Robert Johnson's Crossroads, also known as Crossroad Blues, was first released in 1937. It says here, produced by David Leonard, who had recently worked on... David Leonard, who also worked on Lee's My Favourite Headache. Feedback suffers...
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
we should have known that, shouldn't we?
Should have known that. I totally forgot that. Feedback suffers few, if any, of the production problems that plagued Vapor Trails. The simple approach of live in the studio recording with minimal overdubs gives the album an immediate and energetic sound, appropriately most similar to Rush's early original releases. For those that were so disappointed with the sound of Vapor Trails, Feedback gave a glimmer of hope that the band were back on form and keen to return to the clarity and power that had characterized the majority of their previous albums. And that's all I've got in my little book on it. It was just a case of just listening to it again, which again, like some of these albums, I've not really listened to in recent times. So it was very refreshing to have a listen, and I certainly enjoyed it, and I'm sure you did as well.
Yeah. So let's get into the songs. So Summertime Blues, obviously.
Wow. Yeah.
Original song by Eddie. Is it Cochran or Cockrell? Cochran. And I first thought off. So apparently this is the Blue Cheer version. Yes. Although when I first listened to it, I'm not very familiar with Blue Cheer, but
oh, neither am I.
No, but to me, I was like, oh, they're doing the Who's version, because the Who cover
the Who did this as well. Yeah,
you used to cover the Summertime Blues in their live set. So there's on the Live at Leeds album and Isle of Wight. Around that, I suppose I did it at Woodstock as well, I think. But around that time, they were doing a rockier version of Summertime Blues, and I thought, oh, they're doing the Who's version, but apparently no, they're doing Blue Cheer's version. But who did what first? Because that because obviously with Eddie Cochran, it's I've been working all day just and then it starts strumming while this goes
and then you get them gaps in there, and then there's someone singing really low.
And
you haven't got that on this.
On this, but with Who, it used to be John Entwistle that did that.
Yeah,
you haven't got a job because you didn't work late. The Ox did that.
Yes,
but
I'm
a little bit. I don't know when
Blue Cheer released it. I don't know when they did it. I assume it was earlier than the Who playing it. But I would have to.
Who covering
the Who might have been, or Who might have been doing a hybrid version of Eddie Cochran and Blue Cheer.
You've got that little bit as well at the beginning and the end. It sort of bookends with this boom, 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 boom. And I did think initially, were they doing a bit of Hendrix? I didn't. I just put it on. I didn't look at.
Yeah.
But I thought, that's kind of Jimi Hendrixy.
And then
it leads into right, Summertime Blues.
I mean, it's a nice way. I mean, it comes in. You've got, strangely enough, when the opening of this album called Feedback, it sounds like you've got a feedback guitar, and then it's that, as you say, it comes in with that sequence, and then it cuts back, and you got very bombastic drumming from Peart to actually bring it in properly. It's exciting listen, but they put their own slant on it as always. And them gaps, you've just got, I think Alex does a bit with Feedback again, then Geddy does a bass bit on the next one, and then I think Peart does a drum fill on the other one, the last one. So they've all sort of done a little solo bit within it, and obviously you've got a proper full out guitar solo on it as well, which is pretty good. So it's a nice way to open it, really. Nice way to open it.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, obviously I'll talk more about it and give some stats at the end. And the Feedback R30 tour, they played this one live, and it was it was pretty good actually. It's pretty good to hear it, but we'll get onto that. So
yeah. So next up, then we've got "Heartful of Soul," originally by the Yardbirds. I've always liked this song.
yeah,
A faithful cover, but with a Rush flavour to it. Again, another little hook that they miss out. Obviously, that with the "Summertime Blues," they miss out the "you can't work thingy because you didn't."
Exactly.
With this, they miss out the oh, that was like the hook, the main hook of the song.
Yeah,
But they don't include that in this, which
No.
I found a bit of a shame. But that "Small Peever Side," it's a rushed up version of a pretty cool song.
It is.
I always picture that with the original song. I always picture like a sort of a western feel, like a
it has got that
a nighttime desert with like a silhouette of a cowboy, sort of lonesome on the trail.
It's got that slight country feel to it, to me anyway. But again, I know we're probably going to say this. The people and the fans who are moaning that Alec Lyson didn't do any solos, well, they definitely get a few solos on this lot. And again, you've got a nice solo on this. It sits in there very nicely.
Oh, he does the main melody, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's really very, very tastefully done. And again, can't really say much about it any more than what we've already said. I think they're all quite obviously very short songs, so you can't get bored with these. They're just in and out, really, aren't they? And nice little nuances
with
on
this album.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've said a few of this could have done with a song or two missing, or maybe a bit of. No, this could have done with another.
They could have done it. They could have done a couple more.
Yeah.
Says we criticise.
Yeah.
Why didn't you do this?
Yeah, but all right. Next up, then, "For What It's Worth." Who was this? Was it Jefferson Airplane?
Right. For What It's Worth.
Who originally did what?
Well, I've got here Buffalo Springfield.
Buffalo Springfield. Yes. Yeah. That is right.
Buffalo Springfield. And I'm just looking. I was looking at who wrote these. This is Jacques Leconte and Steve Stills. So I'm assuming Jacques Leconte is maybe French or of French origin.
Yeah.
Ooh la la. Yes, and I think there's another song on here that is also Buffalo Springfield, but we'll get to that as well. Or Buffalo Springfield played it, but it was written by. I'm getting ahead of myself, but written by
around that time as well.
Yeah.
A lot of someone wrote it, but what a song that a band's particularly known for. Yeah, there was a lot of swapping and covers, and they wrote this in this band, but they wrote this song and gave it to that band.
Well, yeah, I mean, one that springs to mind obviously is Mott the Hoople doing All the Young Dudes.
Right.
Which
Exactly. David Bowie. Chris, who's the guy? Chris, Out of Time. That was written by Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, wasn't it? Although the Rolling Stones did start including it in their set.
Playing this, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did start playing this. This song is it's a nice. It's got quite a nice slow tempo to it, and it builds up, doesn't it? Nice guitar solo I've put on this one. But Alex is quite busy on this one. He's got he's doing quite a lot of backdrops and stuff. And of course, I'll say again, it is back to bare bones. There's no keyboards on this album at all. It's just layers of guitars, acoustic guitars, and I think he does use the mandola as well on this album. I don't know if he uses it on this one.
Yeah, it says it on the back here. Geddy Lee, bass, guitar, vocals, no mention of keyboards, and then Alex Lyson guitars, and then just in brackets, electric, acoustic, mandola,
and Pierce drums and cymbals. So
yeah,
it is really back to.
I like the way drums and cymbals. Well, yeah, I know
why.
So drum kit. I don't know why they've made that distinction.
I always find that really strange, personally. It's drums. It just. But there you go. No, good. I think this one builds up very nicely. It's quite. It sort of seems to they just layer it up as it goes
It's got a
through.
bit more of a punch than the
Yeah,
original version, isn't it? The original
yeah,
version is quite a mellow song. Well, this one does have a bit. It does give
yeah.
it a bit of a push.
It's had the Rush treatment with it, but the thing, the one with this one, I like the dynamics that at the end there they just cut it right back, and you just got the acoustic guitar going before they finish it. I think that's a nice touch. I like that. I thought it was yeah, it was a nice listen, that one.
Yeah. Right. Let's get into I think my favourite on this album. Well, because it's one of my favourite songs by one of my favourite bands. But yeah, the Seeker by the Who. Real faithful rendition of a song that's pretty untouchable. I remember the first time I saw the Who in 2007. That was a second song they played. They walked on stage. Pete Townsend chirped a little smart quip, and then bam, ba bam, bam, ba bam, boom, bam. You know, straight into I can't explain. Oh, I can't explain. Seal rings out and bam, you know, and then Pete straight into ba-dum, bam, ba-dum, bam, you know, then it's that ba-dum.
Yeah.
Ba-bam. Then Zach Starkey behind it. Ba-bam, bam, ba-bam. Straight into the Seeker. That's how you open the show, ladies and gentlemen. No introduction, straight into it. And it was sublime watching that. And this is just a great song. It's just a real. It's one of those songs you get a suntan from just listening to. It's got a great groove to it, great lyrics, and and Rush just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, they just totally nailed it. And
it's a song they don't rush it.
No, they
don't.
It
Need to be rushed, but it's almost as if it could have been written for Rush.
Yeah,
it's they don't need to tweak it because it just fits in with what they were doing anyway. It
is a good one. It's one of my favourites, and I quite like this one because band I'm in, we play it. You know, so we played it many times, and it is a good one to play. You just got to get that groove going, and it sort of come to prominence a little bit, sort of a few years back. It seemed to be appearing on. I seem to remember it appearing on certain shows. Might be used as a bit of backing music on a TV program, and it sort of got second wind, sort of thing. And people went, "Oh yeah, that's the Who. Oh wow!" And people forgot about this song.
It was a bit of a hidden gem. Yeah, I think it was used in a soundtrack in a film. I think it was in American Beauty.
It might.
Do you remember American Beauty? The main character's going for like a midlife crisis, and he buys a sports car, and he's driving along, smoking a joint, and blasting the Seeker. Yeah,
that's it.
Because I remember my dad saying, "Oh, this is the Seeker," but I remember my dad.
It is a pretty much a cruising song, isn't it? Really, you can imagine. I think you've already alluded to it on one of the other songs that you could be going through America Midwest, just open highway, roof down, arm on the door, just one arm on the steering wheel, and just driving along with this going. You know, it just it's a great song. I really enjoyed it, and I like their version of it. Like the solo on this as well. Yeah, it just a nice punchy number. And I played this live, and it was great live. It was great live, really good. Yeah. But again, we'll talk about that in a little while.
Right. So next up, then we've got Mr. Soul by Neil Young. Neil Young,
yeah, it's Neil Young, but I think it was actually played by Buffalo Springfield. Now I don't know whether Neil Young wrote it for them or whether they just covered it.
Oh, I see. Okay,
I'm not sure if it is on Neil Young ever played this one.
I listened to Neil Young's
version. Oh right, okay then. So obviously Buffalo Springfield played it as well.
I suppose, but I mean, Neil Young's a bit like Bob Dylan. Everyone's covered one of his songs at some point.
True. Yeah. So what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, Neil Young's version is a bit more raw, a bit more punchy, but it, still,
Well, it's a nice riff on
still a
this.
good thing.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I'm
nice.
not as tied to this song as much as I am the
No,
Seeker and such, but yeah,
no,
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 it's
no.
enjoyable. It's good.
Yeah, it's got a nice groove to it, nice riff. Uh, I like the way again they've sort of cut it back at the end just to step it down before finishing it. The thing I like on this is in the middle section. I think it's just after the solo. Peart does a lot of his signature ride on the bell, sort of almost like a slight Latin. That sort of pings out at me. I've sort of picked that up. That's quite a nice little touch that he puts in there. Yeah, I've got nothing more to say about it. I think it's all right. I think it's a nice.
There's not so much really to say, is it? It kind of just
No,
speaks for itself. This
yeah,
album, yeah.
it does. I think so. You could say it's quite a soulful version of Mr. Soul, I suppose.
Yeah, and yeah, we're going ahead with that. Next up, we've got then 7 and 7 Is by the band Love. I was quite happy when I was just, who's this one? Who's it? Because there was a couple of songs that I didn't initially recognise. And Love is a band
they've sort of
passed me by.
Yeah,
and so, when you flick through magazines and different musicians pick their favorite albums and stuff like that, Love is always mentioned by prominent artists and songwriters, etc. And it's always been like they really. It seems to me that Love is a band that bands like, and there's always bands sort of obviously metal and whatnot, and where there's a band I love called Prong, where a mate said to oh yeah, Prong would put an album out, it'd get nowhere in the big scheme of things, and then everyone else would nick all the riffs off that album and put out hits.
Yeah.
And you always get that band that didn't quite. Everyone respects them, but the respect doesn't quite translate into sales.
Yeah,
I don't know if Love is a bit like that.
Impossible.
But Arthur Lee, I think the main guy,
he's the one who wrote this.
Very much revered among other musicians.
Yes, he is.
And there's a band of
I would have to.
That the questions you've always wanted to ask but didn't want to look stupid. It's like Love is always a band I've wanted to check out but never quite known where to start.
Yeah.
It's exactly. Forever Changes is quite familiar. I've just brought the band up here on Forever Changes is quite a familiar front cover.
Mm-hmm.
You normally see that.
Yeah.
People quite proudly show that one off on vinyl. But yeah, a band I want to investigate. But yeah, good song, good thing. Neil, this is obviously Neil's. I think this was Neil's choice, or at least Neil's.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what a great.
It's a great little.
Well, it is. It's the galloping snare drum beat.
Yeah.
It's it's like you could either liken it to a train journey, or obviously being it galloping, you can imagine it being set in the Wild West and riders on their horses going across the plains and all this stuff. Really great. Really, I mean, it absolutely propels this track all the way forward. And the thing I like about what Neil does with this is he does that galloping and then he'll go slightly off of it and change the emphasis of the beat of it and then just bring it back in again, and it's all seamless. And there's some great tom work on here as well, and it just it's a good driving little number, this, and it's quite a refreshing thing to hear on this. Actually, it certainly stands out for me as something just a little bit different to the rest of the album. So
and it's not even 3 minutes long. So
I think it might be the shortest one on the album.
Yeah,
I think it is the shortest one on the album. So but that's interesting about Love. Yeah, I think I need to.
Yeah, I need to. I want to. I'm putting that on my to-do list. Actually, I'm going to check out. I'm going to dive into Love. I'm going to, especially now with YouTube. There's no excuse. You can just
not at all.
Right, so moving on then. Shape of Things by the Yardbirds. I thought this was by the Kinks initially, but when it was only one, oh no, it's actually the Yardbirds.
Yeah,
But I was
and
very familiar with the song. It's a standard
yeah.
60s
Well,
number,
it's got,
you know.
yeah, well, you got that sort of staccato.
It's one of those songs I knew,
but
never I didn't know who it was by.
Yeah, it's Yardbirds, and I know. I mean, obviously Jeff Beck was in the Yardbirds, but the Jeff Beck group also played this.
Jeff Beck, because they had a few.
Yeah.
Jimmy Page was in them at some point.
Yeah. But it was. I looked at who actually wrote it. It's Jim McCarthy, Paul Samuel Smith, and Keith Ralph who wrote this one. Jeff Beck didn't write it, so it's very much a Yardbirds number. But yeah, I like the version of it.
The standard we all know is the Yard.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's got that nice rhythm, that staccato rhythm, that and then the thing that I enjoy a lot about this one is at the end it almost goes into like a jam, and Peart is virtually soloing all over the end of it.
Yes,
I mean, it's just so much going on with the drums and lots of tom work. Really, really good.
I mean, it was the sort of Yardbirds were never a psychedelic band, but you could get that little section is kind of edging into what would have become psychedelic, you know.
Yeah, it was
the Who kind of experimented with it. There's a few songs where they would sort of go off on one. What's the I can go anyway, bum bum, da, da, da. What songs that? Anyway, anyhow.
Yeah, anyway,
that has a little bit in the middle, isn't it? Where you go,
anywhere, anyhow, anywhere, or anyhow, anywhere.
Yeah, same sort of section towards the end of that.
Yeah, it has got that. It's got that feel to it. Again, just I've got again. It's well played, nice layer, well captured, a nice recording of it. But the thing that stood out for me on this is Peart's definitely come into his own on this one again. Just some great drum work on this, and the end of it, it sort of reminded me of one of the songs he did on Caress of Steel, which is I think I'm going bald. So I think I'm going bald, and he was doing lots of drum solos on the end of that. It's almost like going freestyle, and that's what that's what it feels like to me on this one. So yeah, great, a great rendition of it, I think.
Yeah.
So
we've bashed through this one. Right, Crossroads.
Wow.
How many versions of
there's so many
recorded
versions
this song?
of this.
I think I would narrow it. I think that this is the cream version.
Yeah, it's the cream.
Originally written by Robert Johnson.
Yeah.
The legend, legendary Robert Johnson. The story of him is a bit more notorious than I want to say these songs. You know, he wrote a lot of standard blues songs that everyone would go on to cover. But Crossroads being the main one. Obviously, the legend of the musician crossing the roads that makes a deal with the devil.
Yeah.
A lot of people said that's what he did. There's speculation about that as well. It's like, no, it's a good little good little story. I think a good press officer came up with it more than anything else. But,
I just wonder if something was embellished there just to give it a bit of.
But yeah, obviously, I mean, Eric Clapton's done. I think I've heard a couple of versions of this by Eric Clapton. I don't know if he originally did it in Cream, and he might have done it again as a solo artist. Probably did it in.
I think he did. Sure.
In the 100 live albums he's put out as well. So, but everyone that any blues guitarist has done
basically, it's regarded as a standard.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You know, if you're into blues guitaring, then you've got to learn this staple, Crossroads, and it's again a good version of this. As I say, it is a great riff, very memorable, and possibly on the album, Alec License, he's going for it on the solo on this one.
Definitely.
It's a real.
And Neil's smashing away in the background as well.
Yeah, it's again, it just rocks along really nicely. Nice big ending to finish the album off. It sort of does the same it begins quite bombastic with Summertime Blues, and it finishes again quite nice and heavy, nice big ending, big drum break at the end, and big accents. I mean, certainly with going back to Summertime Blues, I mean, that ending on Summertime Blues that they do, that's quite reminiscent of some of Rush's elongated endings of various songs. So you're catching Rush in a live moment there, just how they finish Summertime Blues, and also with Crossroads as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to finish the album off. Yeah, so there's nothing more really to say about it, really. A good little album, nice little surprise,
it's a
and
breather,
a nice,
isn't it?
it's a nice breather, and it's a nice way to mark their 30th birthday. And then, of course, they would do the subsequent tour, the R30 tour, which
this was really a companion piece.
it was, but I was glad because the R30 tour, they were back in Europe. They came back to Europe for the first time in ages to play.
So you saw it?
Yes, yeah. So considering the last time I seen Rush live was on the Signals tour, to see them again after 20 years. Yeah, it was great. It was a real buzz about the place.
What venue was that?
Wembley
Arena. Yeah,
it's Wembley Arena and the R30 tour, and just visually it looked good. Peart's drum kit had it was a black kit, but then it had embossed on each drum a different cover of their albums, which was inspired by Keith Moon's Pictures of Lily drum kit. So he got that. So visually, it was quite a nice thing to look at. Yeah, a relatively short tour, but it was 57 dates, and they did 15 in Europe.
Call that tour 57 days.
Yeah. And they they did half a dozen here in the UK, and I was glad that there was just excitement. It was just good to have Rush back on the shores again and see him play live. It was a great set, and on this again, I know we're going to end up doing this when we go through the live albums and the live DVDs and whatever. On this tour, from this album, they played 4 numbers. They played The Seeker, Heart Full of Soul, although that was an acoustic version.
Yep.
That they played of it, and that was pretty good. It just slightly different again. Summertime Blues and Crossroads. They're the ones that they played live. They basically mimicked what they did with what they did on Vapor Trails. They played 4 numbers, and the 4 numbers on Vapor Trails, I can't remember if we mentioned them last week, but it was One Little Victory. We did. Yeah. Oh, okay. They did exactly the same there. Yeah. They used 4, which in this case was half an album, and they used 2 of these on the encore, which was Summertime Blues and Crossroads. So yeah, it was a good, and it was just them 2 sets. It was a really good to see them back, and on form. It was a good performance, as you would expect.
Yeah,
it was a terrific, and they toured from the end of May through to 1st of October 2004. So it was literally that 30th year, although they released this slightly earlier. So that was it. That was I've got no other info. I tried to see if I could dig up other things about this, but there's not much else I've got about it. I don't know whether you've got anything to add to it. You got anything?
Not really. No. Just it's a bit of a no nonsense album with it's a stopgap release. We just needed to cover it,
Yeah, exactly.
All I will say is that it's a good fun listen. They sound fantastic on it, and
it was. It is a good album. It was recorded at Phase 1 Studios in Toronto, and it was produced completely by David Leonard and Rush. Says here, right, here we go, chart positions. In Canada, it was number 5. In the US, it was 19. Didn't sell so well over here. It was number 68 in the UK.
I suppose only fans would have bought it.
Yeah, I dare say.
Yeah.
I dare say.
Fully fledged. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. I don't believe. I'd have to look through the set list. I think after when it came to any other tours, they didn't play any of these.
No, I doubt they would have.
It was only on this tour that they played them. So, yeah, that's it. I've really got nothing else to say about it. It's I think the artwork again is by, is it Hugh Syme again? I think I don't know if Hugh Syme. Yeah, it does actually. Yeah, it does say. Get me magnifying glass. Yeah. Art direction, illustration, and design. Hugh Syme, photography. Andrew McNaughton, who had done a lot of them anyway. So, in previous albums with various photographs. So yeah, that's it. 2004 marks their 30th birthday, and Feedback was the album, and we've given our feedback on it.
Yeah, well, there you go. We've managed to get just under an hour out of it, so let's say a shorter episode for how we normally go. But there you go. It's a no nonsense album. It kind of does what it says on the tin. So yeah. What's your favourite song? What do you think of the news about the Rush reunion being put on ice? Although it was never really promised to begin with, it was more the fans just sort of wishing it into existence. But yeah, tell us what your opinion is on that. Let us know what your favourite song is on this. Is there a song you would have liked them to have covered, maybe? But yeah, this is your show as well as it is ours. So join the conversation. But yeah. Thanks for watching, as always. If this is your first show, I'm saving all of these into a playlist. If you go onto the channels thing, just go along the top, click playlist. Everything in Rushcast is there. So, yeah, use this as your companion piece to listen to the Rush catalogue yourself. Either use this as an introduction or an afterthought. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. Give us one of them, share us around, and we'll see you next week when we are doing Snakes and Ladders.
No, Snakes and Arrows.
Oh,
that's the balls.
There you go. Right.
That's the balls go. Snakes and Arrows.
Snakes and Arrows. There you go. I thought I ended that quite well as well.
You did. You did. There you go. You just come to that last hurdle and you've.
Right, we're gonna have to cancel this and record the whole show again. I'm
afraid. Anyway, that's it. See you later, folks. Have a good week.
On that note, quick while we're ahead. See you later, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.